Welcome everyone to our 7th Judge Blab. I've got Shane Davis here with me. He's a level 1 judge from Auckland, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Just to continue boosting the signal on people's recognitions in the judge recognition program, I am going to read out the one that Alan gave you back in the 3rd wave. Shane, I was impressed by the amount of effort you have put into studying about the judge program before you took your level 1 test. I had not met a candidate with such a strong grasp of the IPG and penalty philosophy, even though it was not required for L1. I hope you continue to judge with confidence and preparedness you have shown me when you took the L1 exam. So, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed your foils.
Yeah, they were cool. I still have a couple of them.
Yeah.
I think 2. Yeah.
It is always tempting to sell them.
Well, I kind of really needed the money, and then went to a judge meeting and finally, then got told that I had them. I was like, oh, all right, sweet, works out well. I really didn't need those 2 cards either.
So on to our topic tonight. The pre-release for Shadows of Innistrad is tomorrow night in this part of the world. Other parts have to wait until it's tomorrow night in their part. Everyone can see that there's the link to the release notes in the bottom left and also in the live chat. So we're going to start digging into some of them, and we're going to go through them in what I've termed the order of least intuitive first and the most corner casey ones last. And then we're going to have a bit of chat about random cards that have interested us at the end, if Shane, it isn't getting too late for him over there.
And if I can find them again. I was reading it today.
Cool. So, investigations for clues is the first bit we're going to look at. So it's a new keyword action called investigate. And you got it up there in front of you, Shane?
Just trying to, I've gone back to the top of the release notes.
It's a little ways down. So it's a new keyword action. I like the keyword actions. They're a little bit more useful than a lot of the other ones. But the official rules are very short, so we might as well read them in full. Rule 701.33, investigate. 33A is investigate means put a colorless clue artifact token onto the battlefield. It has 2, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. I think that's the quickest little one we're going to have.
Yeah, I can't think of any that are less than that, like less words.
Yeah. Unlike the last non-creature token I can recall, which was the gold tokens put into play by Guild, and that this is a artifact token that is named Clue. It's a new artifact type, Clue. And yeah, I can't recall any other artifact tokens that aren't also creatures.
There'll probably be some.
Probably but
back in the ancient stuff.
Yeah, they didn't like tokens and didn't use them as much until recently.
Yeah, what's the oldest token card actually? I can find out.
Twang, or whatever his name is, who attacks creating a copy of himself.
From Legends. Legends.
Legends. That
Might have
might.
been from
Oh no,
just
original
after that.
alpha. Rook egg creates a Rook token.
Yeah.
Always been tokens.
Yeah. So they kind of hated them that much.
No, but I think they're all creatures.
Yeah.
So the release notes think that there's 5 points worth mentioning. The first being that it's a token named Clue, has an artifact subtype Clue, and Clue isn't a creature type. I think we just mentioned all that. The next bit's they're normal artifacts. They can be sacrificed to Angelic Purge or targeted with Root Out or Naturalize. Like,
is Root Out in this set?
No idea. I don't even know what Root Out is.
Oh, it is from the set.
It is in this set. Cool.
That's all right then.
I do like the symmetry of Root Out being destroy target artifact or enchantment, investigate. So Root Out both creates artifacts and destroys them.
For all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And you just need to find a way of making the artifact into an enchantment as well.
Yeah.
You can make both.
The third point they decide they should go over is if you sacrifice a clue for another card's cost or effect, such as Angelic Purge or what have you, you can't also pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. That's our standard rule of you can only use things once to pay a cost.
Yeah.
It then goes on to mention some triggered abilities will trigger when you sacrifice a clue. They will trigger regardless of why you sacrificed it. And the standard clause about targeted spells needing all their targets. You can't just cast Root Out to get a token. And be careful of trying to root out your opponent's clues to get a clue because they may sacrifice their clue. So get a clue before making that play. Yeah. Bad puns. Puns, word plays, jokes, whatever it is. It's bad. I know that bit. Anything else we think we should say about clues?
As in, are they going to become useful for something constructed wise, or?
I don't think this lab's all that concerned with whether or not they're good. We are more about
whether or not it's good.
Yeah.
Not everything that gets constructed play is good.
And
I
definitely, when it's a rider on the common naturalize effect in the format, it's going to get played in limited at least.
Oh, yes.
So us as judges are going to have to know it. I don't expect too many questions. Having the token cards so that players can represent their clues is going to make it a lot more intuitive for most players.
Yeah. Similar with like the morph and manifest at the same time.
Yeah.
That got quite confusing when people didn't have anything. It's just like, oh no, this is this one. Are you sure? No, it might be the other one. Oh, okay.
There is a reason why they didn't do these things before printing tokens. Yeah. All right, let's move on to Skulk, which exists somewhere in here.
Above Madness. Because their thing isn't in order either.
No, this is in some random order. Okay, do you want to read out the rules for this one?
All right. Skulk is a new keyword for insidious creatures that creep by unseen. So Skulk is an evasion ability. It's sub rule, I guess. A creature with Skulk can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. So basically, anything that's bigger than your creature with Skulk can't block it. And multiple instances of Skulk are redundant, so there's no point having more than one.
Yeah.
So specific rulings is that Skulk matters only as blockers are chosen. So if you change either creature's power after it's been blocked, that doesn't really affect anything to do with the being unblocked or anything like that. And I don't really know why they've even written this in here, but if you cause a creature to have 0 or less power, use the actual value to determine whether it can be blocked or not. Or it can block. A creature with Skulk and 0 or less power most likely won't be blocked, but it won't deal combat damage and won't trigger any abilities that trigger when combat damage is down. I don't know why they put that part in there.
It is important to mention that so that people know that they could use an ability to make their creature a -2 power attack, not get blocked by walls, and then pump it up big.
Yeah, so the first line's fine, but then the second line is...
That's just further explaining exactly what they mean by the words there. The rules are frequently, not that these are rules, but the rules themselves are repetitive, and the release notes are triply so.
True.
Yeah, I sort of like this one as a cute little ability. It feels like they've looked at a what's the morph creature with this ability on it?
Den Protector.
Den Protector, and gone, yeah, that's cool.
No, wait, Den Protector is the other way around.
Can only be blocked by creatures with more power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why when he first got printed, there was the enchantment-based Theros deck that did some weird thing with the graveyard and chucked heaps of power on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, it's clearly a riff on the Den Protector ability. Yes, it's the other way around, but that's where the flavor works for things, and obviously what they felt they needed in this format.
Yeah. I like how they're doing a lot more evasion ability, like keywording as well, like because they had menace.
Yeah, I love that this is a keyword ability. This is an evasion ability that putting great big pants on the creature is not always the best idea.
Yeah.
If you put your great big Eldrazi conscription on your Skulk creature, now it gets blocked by everything.
Provided they have something to block with.
Provided after the Annihilator 2 they've got things left. But I was just thinking of the biggest pants I could think of.
Yeah, you just put like 4 Eldrazi conscriptions on them.
Yeah.
Overkill. Why not?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Delerium.
Ooh. Found
which
it.
I can't spell, but... Okay. So it's another... This is an ability word. Those words that don't actually mean anything.
Effectively.
Yeah. So they're just trying to find another way for the Graveyard Matters type theme of Innistrad to matter without using the same ones they used last time round.
Yeah. Which they seem to always do.
Yeah. So as it's a keyword ability... as it's an ability word, there's no actual rules text for us to explain. So the first example card the release notes give is Paranoid Parish Blade, which, skipping to the Delerium ability, Delerium, Paranoid Parish Blade gets +1/+0 and has first strike as long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. And we go on to mentioned that card types in Magic are artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, land, planeswalker, sorcery, and tribal.
They should bring tribal back.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to.
Well, the problem is you're never going to get all 8 things until they do.
Well, it's also impossible to get the other things.
Why?
There are a few other card types that can't exist in a graveyard ever.
Well, yeah. But I mean, out of these 8,
It's not that hard to get them all.
well, you can't get tribal in standard.
Standard doesn't need it to go to 8. And this only matters about getting to 4 anyway.
I know. But you want to have an artifact-less, creature-less, enchantment-less, planeswalker-less deck. So you just want instants, lands, and sorceries and tribal.
Yeah.
That seems viable.
Yeah. The more important bit to mention here, back to rules that matter, is the super types, legendary and basic, and snow, and subtypes such as human, equipment, or
Soldier.
clue.
Yep.
Don't count. So you can't just drop one of your creatures that's got 3 creature types in the graveyard and have 4 types there. In Modern, you are going to try and put a Tarfire and an artifact creature in your graveyard and call it done.
Yeah. Or you could just put in some Theros block stuff. Like
There's lots of options.
the god weapons that have 3 types.
Oh, yeah.
Seems
No, 2 types.
I know, yeah, 2 and a... Yeah.
Legendary.
The gods are 3.
It's not a type.
Gods are 3?
They're enchantment creatures.
That's dumb. Why isn't there something with 3? Like now?
I can't think of which 3 would you expect to be on one thing?
Artifact, creature, enchantment. Because you can't have planeswalker with anything else.
Enchantment artifacts are an oxymoron.
Yeah, but they have them.
Do they?
Well, that's what they got.
The god equipment, yeah.
Yeah. They just weren't creatures or lands.
Yeah.
Or sorceries or instants.
I feel you're more likely to have had a...
They need to make an instant sorcery.
a land that turned into a enchantment creature, but then it would have turned in. It wouldn't have the card types on it. But in creature enchantment land, if they were ever going to print another creature land, it would be fun. But we're getting off the track into not actual rules.
Not quite as far as possible, but close.
Yeah. They want to remind us that we're counting types, not cards. 4 creatures do not help you.
Yeah.
Only consider the front face of double-faced cards. Some of the abilities use instead. That means that the spell does something more if you have the 4.
Or different.
Or different. Some of them are not activated abilities. It only matters when you activate the ability if you have the 4 types. They can go away later. It doesn't stop the activated ability.
However, with the instants and sorceries, they check on resolution.
Yeah. And the triggered abilities mostly use an intervening if. So they need it to be true when they trigger and when they go to resolve. But we all are happy with our intervening ifs, right? And it does mention that there are some rare cases where you could have a token or a copy of a spell in the graveyard at the moment that an object's Delerium ability counts the card types. But because they're not cards, they don't matter.
I want to know, when would you ever have a token or copy in the graveyard when something triggers or activates, or when you can cast something before the token ceases to exist? Because don't they just disappear in state base?
If we're looking at Paranoid Parish Blade and the Austere Command.
Okay.
Destroy all creatures with power 4 or more.
Yep.
Destroy all creatures with power 3 or less.
Yep. So if a creature that was... Wait, what is Parish?
But maybe a reverse Paranoid Parish Blade, so it was...
Well, no, so he's 3. So you... I know, because Austere hits CMC, not power and toughness. So you could have...
I'm making up cards here. I was just trying to think of something that would be checking the power and toughness of something after it did something else.
Yeah, there probably is something that does that.
Probably.
So you're saying that if somehow during the phases of the card, well, phases, steps, whatever
different actions of a card.
Yeah. And so if it somehow a token ended up in the graveyard before the end of the spell's resolution, it would stay there?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
But yes, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that actually does that.
It's not really necessary to have a card that does it yet.
Okay. I think that's really all we need to say about Delerium. Cool. Let's chat about Madness now.
This is my favorite one.
It is a returning keyword ability. Were you playing Magic the last time Madness was printed?
Me?
Yeah.
When was it?
Time Spiral?
No. I had stopped playing Magic.
Okay, cool.
And I hadn't gone back into it yet. So I stopped around about Scourge, somewhere around that time, and came back during original Innistrad.
Cool.
I also took
this is a nice homecoming for your return.
Kind of, yeah. I missed all of the cool sets though, like Zendikar and Ravnica and all of the sets that have all of the cards that are worth heaps of money now.
Yeah.
That I probably would have had heaps of them and been able to be rich.
So it's been around 9 years since they printed a Madness card.
Oh wait, no, it's
2006.
It appeared in Odyssey, so therefore I would have been playing when it first came out.
Yeah, so you've played when it first came out. Well, it's changed twice now.
Yeah, because when it first happened, what was the actual rules for original Madness?
I can't remember. I really didn't play with any ever.
Yeah,
and
I'm assuming it would have just been something like, if you discard this, you get to cast it, and that's basically it. There wouldn't have been any zone changes in between, or
no, there definitely was, but I think there was Odyssey. Was that post 6th Ed?
Odyssey is. I'm going to say slightly, but I'll check.
Yeah. In the end, trying to remember back that far isn't all that useful to most people.
No. I just have a rather large knowledge of Magic stuff, and generally I'm on the ball, but I've had a few too many beers already.
So let me read out the great big block of text for how madness works. This is the new way it works. There's a couple of words missing from the old way. The official rules for madness are as follows.
Oh, no, you have to stop there because you have to scroll down a bit. Because the new bit is down there.
Yeah, that's them just talking about the new bits.
You started up here. Never mind, carry on.
On the run sheet.
That one.
Okay, cool. 702.34a. Madness is a keyword that represents two abilities. The first is a static ability that functions while the card with madness is in a player's hand. The second is a triggered ability that functions when the first ability is applied. Madness cost means if a player would discard this card, that player discards it, but exiles it instead of putting it into his or her graveyard. And when this card is exiled this way, its owner may cast it by paying cost, rather than paying its mana cost. If that player doesn't, he or she puts this card into his or her graveyard. Point 34b, casting a spell using its madness ability follows the rules for paying alternative costs in rules 601.2b and 60.2f through h.
Just a couple.
So the important bit that they've dropped is the may bit. It used to be you got to choose to think about putting it into the exile to then later pay the cost.
Yeah.
Now it always goes there.
Yeah.
This is highly relevant for standard because the best madness enabler, thing that lets you discard cards in standard right now, immediately counts how many cards are in your graveyard. Mm-hmm. So when you tap your Jace and exile your... What random card are they using? Just the Wind. It can't go to your graveyard to be the 7th card for Jace. So it goes straight to exile, and then Jace goes, 6 cards, not yet important enough. So yeah, that's a small change, but it's quite an important one.
It will cause lots of problems for everybody that was already deciding that was what they were going to do.
Yeah, it came out pretty early that there was this change. I don't think they'd officially spoiled a Madness card before they announced that.
Yeah. I just know that there was a Madness card. The reprint, Fire at Temper, was shown during the leaks, like at the very start.
Okay.
And there was like 2 booster packs, I think, and it ended up on Mythic Spoiler anyway.
Okay,
like
cool.
Ages ago.
Yeah, but if you're basing stuff off leaks, that's your own problem.
Yeah, but I mean, once it gets on Mythic Spoiler, if it's not meant to be there, Wizards will generally do something about it within a few weeks.
Yeah. But yeah, in the end, that power level difference for Jace is actually in Jace's favor. It means you get an extra loot out of Jace. And if you're running Madness cards, that's a good thing.
What do you mean you get an extra loot?
You get a loot where you were essentially discarding the 7th card into the graveyard, but you didn't flip Jace. Because you discarded a Madness card and didn't flip Jace, which is the good thing when you're trying to use him as a Madness enabler.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So, if anything, the rule change is making Jace better. because Jace needs more reasons to be awesome.
So he's going to bump up to about 120.
Yeah, crazy numbers.
It's a little bit over the top.
So apparently Madness is complicated, and the release notes have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points that they want to explain about Madness. First, they want to mention you only discard cards from your hand. If something isn't using the word discard and the card is not going from your hand, it's not a discard. And then they want to go that casting a spell for its Madness cost is just like casting any other spell. It goes on the stack, it can be countered, copied, etc. And when it resolves, it'll go on the battlefield if it's a permanent, and if it's not, it'll go to the graveyard. Just with every other alternate cost for a card, it doesn't change the converted mana cost on the stack.
Or anywhere else.
Or anywhere else. Do you want to go over the next couple?
Sure. So effects that cause you to pay more or less for a spell will still cause you to pay more or less for Madness cost. Madness works independently of why you're discarding the card. So you can discard it to pay a cost because the spell wants you to, or just because you have too many cards at the end of your turn. But you can't just discard a card for no reason.
Yeah.
When you cast a card with Madness...
I heard recently there was a kitchen table group that were just mulliganing mid-game.
Like just shuffling their hand into the deck.
Yeah, and drawing one less.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, do what you want with your play group.
And like, oh, you cast a big thing. Don't have a counterspell here. Let's see if I can get one.
What was this?
Random people on the internet, on IRC, I think.
So they were playing it via IRC somehow?
No, they were asking some questions on IRC, and it was like, no, you've got the game wrong. That happens.
Don't do that. Where are we up to?
Can't discard.
Oh, yeah. If you cast a card with Madness, it was still discarded. So if you discarded it to pay a cost, the cost is still paid. And effects that abilities that trigger when a card is discarded will still trigger.
Yeah. I think Megrim was a big thing most of the times that Madness has been around.
Yeah. And there was one and was it actually in the last Innistrad block, Liliana's something? It's like Megrim, but only 2 to cast.
Yeah, and there was Liliana's Spectre that caused you to discard things, right?
Oh, of course. All Spectres discard.
Yeah. But they were paired together in Standard, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll go with the next 3. If you choose not to discard a card with Madness, when Madness trigger resolves, it is put into your graveyard. You don't get another chance to cast it later. So, yeah. Typically, you discard, the trigger goes on the stack, no one wants to respond. You have to pay for it then or not get it.
Yeah.
If you discard a card with Madness to pay the cost of a spell or activated ability, that card's Madness trigger will resolve before the spell or ability you discarded. That before the spell or ability the discard paid for. So, yeah, I can't think of anything you discard. So, if you
there's quite a few, because you're discarding as part of the cost. So things like yep.
So the new black enchantment that makes you discard a card to sacrifice it to destroy a target creature, along with some other costs like paying a life and a mana and things.
Yeah, that one's odd.
That one, so you do that, you will put into play. You'll cast your madness card, and it will resolve before you destroy the creature.
Yeah.
And the last point, if you discard a card with madness while resolving a spell or ability, it moves immediately to exile. Continue resolving the spell or ability. The card is not put into your graveyard at this time. Blah, 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 blah. That's exactly what we're talking about with Jace.
Yeah, and things like Thoughtseize, etc.
Yeah.
If they, for some reason, had a madness card.
Yeah, it's important to mention that most of those types of effects on Thoughtseize and that, you must select a card if you can.
Yep.
If their only card in hand is madness and you've just made them win the game, well, bad luck.
I think that was the whole point of having the is it Loxodon Smiter and Warpleaf Lead, etc. and
yeah.
Modern.
And
make me discard. Go on, Liliana. Go on.
What's the artifact one? Automaton?
That comes in.
The first one was an artifact that you put into play when forced to discard.
Oh, is it a bit older?
Bit
Or
older.
from the same time? Oh.
I think it
Okay.
might have been reprinted in Mirrodin, maybe. Original Mirrodin. Okay, let's get on to the changes with double-faced cards and how checklist cards work. So,
Right.
just like before, just like so frequently recently, there are double-faced cards. These have a sun side and a moon side, a front and a back. The first one they mention in here is the updated Delver of Secrets, being the Aberrant Researcher. I mean, very clearly an updated one. The Aberrant Researcher is the 3/2 flying side of Delver of Secrets, but with the at the beginning of your upkeep, put the top card of your library into your graveyard. If it's an instant or sorcery card, transform Aberrant Researcher.
Do you reckon this creature is actually Frieza from Dragon Ball Z? Or Cell?
I am not
More
a
like
Dragon
Cell.
Ball Z person.
You need to. At least you need to know the character. Basically, he just levels up from absorbing other people's power and ends up having a perfect form at the end.
Yeah. I think this is just a we need to show the continuing story of some of the characters, even if they're commons.
Yeah. Well, they've bumped them up.
Yeah. So this is just the continuing story of that.
Yeah, it's still got the same instant sorcery theme.
Same instant sorcery theme. The day side is the night side of the old card with a new triggered ability, and it turns into just a bigger version. So it turns into a 5/4 flyer.
Yeah, it's a fair bit bigger.
I mean, once again, in Limited, 4-drop 3/2 flyers? That's nuts.
It's not terrible.
That's
It's highly playable.
yeah. I mean,
And a 4-drop 5/4 flyer is
crazy.
I'll have that.
But just even if that had no abilities, I'd be jamming that into a lot of Limited decks.
Yeah, flying is well worth it.
So let's jump on down to the rule changes. There are some new rules. 202.3b now reads the converted mana cost of a double-faced permanent's back face is calculated as though it had the mana cost of its front face. This is a change. If a permanent is copying the back face of a double-faced card, the converted mana cost of the permanent is 0. So it's still... the backside still doesn't have a casting cost.
No.
So if one of the few cards that refers to casting costs is interacting with one, it still gets nothing and you don't need to do anything. So there's some cards that give everything echo.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Where you have to pay the casting cost of the creature next turn.
Yep.
So,
but the most important thing, I think, is that, for instance, this creature we were just looking at, which is a 4-cast creature,
yeah,
when it's transformed, it now cannot be abrupt decayed.
Yes. Very, very important. And things like Ugin take more counters to kill it and so forth.
Yeah.
They go over that a bit. Then the next rule that's changing is 711.7a. If a player is instructed to put a non-double-faced card onto the battlefield transformed, that card stays in its current zone. This is a change from previous rules. So It used to be a great idea to clone a Jace, and then when you activated your clone Prodigy and you discarded a card and there was more than 7 in your graveyard, you removed it from play and you tried to return it to the battlefield transformed and it came back untransformed and you just got to clone something else.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. Now you can't do that. It just says, I don't have a back face, I stay exiled.
Won't it exile and not come back?
Yeah.
So it won't just not leave the battlefield.
Didn't I say stay exiled?
I thought you said that.
Yeah. So cloning the Origins Planeswalkers, less good than it used to be.
Is there a double-faced clone?
Don't think so. Or did they put one in this set?
Don't think there's one in this set.
Then no.
There's a flash clone, or no, can't be counted clone.
Yeah, I like that card. We'll get onto that when we talk about cards we like.
Alrighty.
And then the third thing that's changing is what I like to refer to the no flippy floppy rule. It's 701.25e. If an activated ability of a permanent tries to transform that permanent, the permanent transforms only if it hasn't transformed since the ability was put on the stack. The same is true of triggered abilities of a permanent that aren't delayed triggered abilities. If a delayed triggered ability of a permanent tries to transform the permanent transforms only if it hasn't transformed since that delayed triggered ability was created.
That's slightly a mouthful. Can you say it 5 times fast?
No. I'm not exactly sure how that last one really matters. But
like that's the delayed trigger one is.
So if you've got a Avacyn in play,
yeah, Avacyn's the delayed trigger, right?
Flips when a creature dies, or a creature you control dies, at the end of turn, flip it, transform it. Although we're not going to kick anyone off this podcast if they say flip it one more time. Joke for anyone who listens to the Judgecast. So if Avacyn, you have a creature die, At the end of turn, somehow a creature dies in the end of turn step before you put the delayed trigger on the stack. I don't think anything can die there, can it?
What, at the end of turn?
Yeah, but at the
Stuff dies in
start of
cleanup
the
step.
end of turn step.
Can't stuff die in the cleanup step?
Yeah, but that's later. If somehow
That's right.
you manage to engineer a creature dying the first time a player would receive priority in the end of turn step,
Hmm.
and thus you trigger Avacyn again, before you've managed to put the first delayed trigger on the stack, that this phrasing means, don't worry, you won't flip Avacyn again at the end of the next turn.
Yeah, and by don't worry, it means all of the people that were talking about it on, I think, Spoiler.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Then again, some of them think that you can have multiple Avacyns at the same time. So
they're all assuming mirror galleries, right?
I guess so. Or just
forgetting.
Paint. Just use paint to change the name a little bit.
Yeah. If it's a Japanese one, it doesn't count as the same name, right?
I guess not. So the same would be German, Italian.
Yeah, so you can have like 9 in play.
Yeah. Is there actually that many printed languages now? Wait, how many? There's 2 Chinese ones.
2 Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Italian, German, English, Spanish, French,
Russian.
We're at 10.
Yeah. All right. Just have to change the rules so we can have 10 copies of the same card.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you've got there's an actual example of that bottom bit anyway.
Well, that's the easier activated ability at the start. So Elusive Tormentor has 1, discard a card, transform Elusive Tormentor. If you activate it 4 times, so you can cast your 4 Fiery Tempers for just 4 red mana.
Discount.
Yay. Then you're only going to flip it once.
You've still paid 8 mana though.
Yeah, but not 12.
Yeah, that's 8's a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Anything else we want to say about double-faced cards?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Although when I started playing in Innistrad, that was my thing. Was werewolves.
Cool.
Completely casual. Just a deck of werewolves is like one of most of them. I took it to a modern tournament and it wasn't very good.
Yeah, that happens.
My first matchup was Sunny Side Up, so I sat there. I literally sat there and watched.
Yeah.
The whole round, and I was excited, and then I went home.
It was interesting at GP Melbourne to see how many very interesting decks were being played.
Yeah. What was the percentage of Eldrazi?
Not that high on day 1, but day 2 got pretty high.
Yeah, but it doesn't the day 2 doesn't really matter. It's how many started the tournament. I think that should matter. For banning wise, like if the deck is overly.
No, just because everyone wants to play the deck doesn't mean the deck's any good.
No, but so if 50% of people were playing it at the beginning and 50% of it made it into the day 2, that's fine because that's the same proportion. So there's no problem there.
Yeah.
But if 5% of people started the day one with it, and then all of them made it into day two, then yeah, sure, maybe we've got a problem.
Yeah, it's, to me, if a higher percent make day two, it implies that more people are going to turn up with it later. And also, part of the reason people don't turn up with a deck is they can't get it.
Yeah.
So there can just be sort of a natural limit on the percentage on day one. But if 80% or 90% of the decks that make day two are one deck, that's a lot worse than just because 90% of people turned up on day one with it.
Yeah.
If you go from 40 to 90% when you make the cut, that says bad things about how broken the deck is.
Even that's not that bad though, because 40 to 90 means that a lot of people turned up with the deck.
I'm saying 40% day one, then 90% day two.
Yeah, but 40% of a whole of a GP.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people with the deck.
But it's implying that you really needed to turn up with that to win matches.
Yeah. Well, because what was the previous tournament, like before Twin was banned, and I think it was only somewhere around like the 15%, if that.
Yeah, but I wasn't paying that much attention.
No, I think it was really low, realistically, and still managed to dominate.
Yeah, a lot of that, I think, was that just people didn't choose to play it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to talk about my favorite card in the set, which is Altered Ego. So while I talk about it, hopefully you can dig up yours.
I'm going to find it. It's blue, right?
Altered Ego is multicolored.
Oh, that's easy.
Maybe like the second card it's a little bit down. It's a little bit down, but searching.
Oh, it's the one I was talking about before.
Yeah.
This guy.
Its casting cost is X, 2 generic, green and blue. It's a creature shapeshifter. Altered Ego can't be countered. You may have Altered Ego enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it enters with X additional +1/+1 counters.
It's a very strong clone.
Yeah. I mean, at worst, you cast it for 4, and it's a slightly harder to cast clone that's identical and can't be countered.
Yep.
That seems like a good deal.
And then you have more upside.
And more upside if you just pay more mana for counters.
Yeah. So if you just copy someone's, I don't know, what's a card that you'd be likely to copy?
You copy someone's...
Like a Primeval Titan. No, you don't copy Tarmogoyf. Primeval Titan.
You're likely to copy Tarmogoyf in some matchups. Because your one's going to be bigger.
Yeah. The problem is, though, that it still can die easily.
Yeah.
And you're not getting any instant benefit, whereas with Primeval Titan you would.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
I quite like the idea of copying my opponent's Avacyn.
Yep. You're talking about the new one, right?
The new one. My Avacyn's going to be bigger than yours.
And then you wouldn't be able to flip it.
True, but it would stay in play.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Naughty big can't be counted Avacyn.
Because yes, notice the second point in the release notes here on Altered Ego is, if you copy a double-faced creature, Altered Ego will be a copy of the face that's up when Altered Ego enters the battlefield. And because Altered Ego is not a double-faced card, it won't be able to transform.
Fancy that.
Fancy that. It's also interesting to note that this is one of the better ways to clone creatures that have X that determines how big they are when they start. So if for some reason you really need to clone your opponent's Hydra, this one works.
Provided you pay more than 4.
Yeah.
Actually, what was the thing? Oh yeah, sorry. And it says you can choose not to copy anything.
Yeah.
Like you can put as much mana into it as you want, but then if you decide not to copy anything, you don't even get any creature with counters.
Yeah. I mean, it's still better than Wood Elemental. With nothing on the field to copy.
Except Wood Elemental comes in Old Border.
Yeah.
This is important.
Some may consider that New Border's better.
The new border? Or
I think the borders have just gotten better with time.
Yeah.
Other than the revised border. That was worse than the unlimited border.
With the weird 3D.
The removal of that little extra bevel.
Yeah. So, what was a card that I like? I think, just because it's fairly obvious, Anguished Unmaking. But I just have to find it on here. I'm guessing it's under U. I'll go find it down there. U. Wait, why on earth am I?
No, they're not alphabetical. What was it?
They're not? They are. It's right here. It's under A because I said U for some reason. Yeah. So there's nothing that spectacular about it.
Sorry, what is it?
Was Anguished Unmaking. It's 2 down from your thing.
Yeah. Anguished Unmaking. Oh, yeah.
So considering that we just had, well, it's just about to rotate out when this comes out. What's it called? I can't remember because it's already been so long since I played it. And it's 4 mana to basically do the same thing.
Without the life.
Don't lose life, yeah.
Yeah.
But so this having 1 less casting cost makes it more playable in other formats. And the life loss is probably not that bad to get rid of any permanent. That's not a land.
Although the 4-cost one was any permanent, right? Not just non-land.
No, it was still non-land.
Still non-land? Okay.
Yeah. It was from Khans.
Yeah. I do like the art on Anguished Unmaking.
It's pretty brilliant. Yeah. Die, Everson. See, this is how you kill an indestructible creature.
Yeah.
You just send Sorin at it. Get in there, Sorin. Yeah. What's another interesting card?
Have you noticed any humor in the release notes?
Ooh.
Has anyone noticed any humor in the release notes? There's commonly something funny somewhere.
I do recall sometimes seeing a little, like, it'd just sometimes be like 1 word and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like for Battle for Zendikar. Battle for Zendikar? One of them. It had for Void Winnower.
Yeah.
The last bit in it was, yes, you can't even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny.
Oh, it's very fitting.
Yeah.
That is relatively annoying. Relatively. Go all the way down to the bottom.
The only mildly interesting thing on that side of things that I found is that Triskaidekaphobia. Triskaidekaphobia?
Have you said it right?
No.
What was it? T. Ah.
Triskaidekaphobia. Yeah, whatever. The thing about being scared of the number 13.
Yeah.
There's too many letters and vowels and consonants just jumbled together. Yeah, they've managed to fail at the formatting of it.
Well, for some reason, the lines have 15 words in them.
Yeah.
Unless you take out the numbers, and then it's 13 words. So then you're fine.
Yeah. So there's 13 written words.
Yeah. So what formatting did they screw up?
Well, the modal bits look like dot points of stuff you're writing.
Ah, on the actual card?
No, in the release notes.
Ah. Oh, the same as the ones above it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the rules text shouldn't be looking the same as the release notes text.
Yeah. Yeah, that is... Why is that?
I think it's just the conversion from text to HTML probably did it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting that the bullet point matches up.
Yeah.
So unless someone edited it afterwards and just made all the bullet points the same.
I suspect it's that text has been multiple converted from the card database to a text file to the HTML. So it's all just sort of mangled into the one formatting.
Yeah.
I do love the art for that with how many 13s there are in it.
I haven't looked at the art closely because
there's a picture going around with all the 13s counted out.
Oh. So is there 13 of them?
I think there's more by a lot.
Oh. Fair enough.
Like the hearth, there's 13 stones on the inside and there's 13 stones on the outside of the arch.
Oh, okay. Yep.
The blood splatters have 13 drips of blood coming down.
Yep.
Yeah, it keeps going. It's appropriate art. It's good.
I like this line here that says if each player has 13 life, the game ends in a draw.
Yeah.
Now, how?
Well,
how can they write that? This is specific for limited, right?
No, they always just assume 2 players.
Oh, okay. Because just above it says in a 2-headed giant game.
Life. That's all the players.
Yeah.
So it's everyone dying. The game is a draw.
No one's dying. Each player with exactly 13 life.
Loses.
Oh, wait, loses the game.
Yeah.
Oh, so if they have 13 life as it happens. Combo time.
And you're able to use it to move people towards 13. It's a great alternative condition.
It's very slow, maybe. Possibly.
You can still attack.
It's definitely it's a safer alternate win con than Demonic Pact.
Yeah. It feels less alternative because it's still about reducing their life total.
Yeah. But possibly you might have to be increasing it as well.
Yeah.
Because you could find a way to get them up to 26 and then halve it.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. Yeah. Haha, I gained 6 life. What are you doing? I lose half your life. Damn it.
Well, I'm going to start winding this up unless there's anyone who wants to ask us some questions who's watching. Or one of you.
He's been here the whole time, has he?
He has. No one's commented on Facebook telling me that the thing's not working. Okay, cool. Let's call it quits here. Thank you, Shane, for joining us.
No worries.
And things will be up online soon. Not sure when our next one will be. I'm not doing these unless I've got a reason to do them. But I'm sure I will come up with some good reasons to do them soon.
When they do the banning of Eye of Ugin or something, cause a massive uproar.
I don't see how that's a judged thing.
I know, you could just get people on and just talk about it. It'd be great. You could fill up all 4 slots easy.
Yeah, I'm just not sure I want to.
No,
Until next time, guys.
See you next. Catch you later, man.
Adios.